Hello and welcome to Renew, the show about the College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University. The College of Forest Resources promotes and enables the conservation, management, and wise use of your natural resources. I'm your host, Leslie Berger. Today's show will feature the Department of Forestry, one of the 3 units within the College of Forest Resources, and here to represent that unit is Dr. Don Grebner. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Leslie.
So tell me what your position there is in the department.
I am a professor in forest economics and management.
Forest economics, okay? So many people probably don't think about that as even being an option. They probably understand management. So what do you do?
My particular responsibilities are research and teaching. I teach forest management, international forestry. Given my economics background, I do research in bioenergy, carbon sequestration, and forest protection.
Okay. So where has your career taken you? You said you do work internationally, and I know you and I have chatted in the hall. You've been to some really amazing places.
Actually, it started a long time ago, and I'll try to be super brief. It was an interest I developed as a kid through my mother, but I got involved with the Peace Corps, so I spent time in Costa Rica as an extension forester, and since then I've worked in Pakistan, New Zealand, and done some work in Germany as well, but I've brought that interest here.
Okay. So how do you take those experiences that you're having in these international countries and economics and bring that into the classroom when you're instructing students that are here at Mississippi State?
Well, the interesting thing about it is that in a lot of ways, problems that people have or societies have are really consistent across the world. Just there are certain details that change, and I try to illustrate examples. When we see a problem here, I try to say, well, this is where you can see it elsewhere, and that's really kind of the interesting thing about it.
Okay. It's good to be able to show some relevance. I know students sometimes get all bogged down in the details of their class, and they're thinking, you know, why do I even have to know this? What relevance does it have? And it sounds to me like you're able to take then your experience and your research and your travels and give them that big picture that perhaps encourages them to stay the course in the stuff that they're learning.
Yeah, because some of the things that they learn here, I mean, a lot of times they're focused just on this state, which is very important, but the issues and the experiences that they gain are applicable in other places, so it gives them an idea of what they learn here. They can transfer it to other parts of the country or even other countries, and that was my experience.
Right, and I think that's really important because I think a lot of times students don't see what their options are, and I think that's really cool that you can be able to show them that they have options that extend beyond the state. That they can be impactful outside outside their sphere of comfort, even perhaps.
Right, and I think it's just really exciting.
Good. One of the things you mentioned, I want to come back to, you mentioned carbon sequestration, and that's kind of a tool, a term that we hear in the literature. We're talking about climate change and forestry practices and reducing our carbon footprint. So could you explain what carbon sequestration is?
Sure. It's really a fancy name for something that landowners do anyways. It's basically carbon sequestration is we're just growing trees, and trees are inherently sequestering carbon from the atmosphere. So we're talking about when we link carbon sequestration with climate change, it's just basically a potential mitigation tool. And the idea is that forests aren't just valuable for producing timber, they're valuable for a whole host of ecosystem services, such as helping mitigate climate in terms of sequestering carbon. Okay. So that's the idea of trying to help landowners receive more value from something that they're already doing.
Right. So there's carbon dioxide in the air all the time, and there always has been. We exhale carbon dioxide, but of course one of the driving factors behind climate change is too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and so plants, trees, and grasses absorb that carbon dioxide naturally in their living processes, and so when they do that, they exhale oxygen. So they're sequestering or holding on to that carbon inside their bodies, their trunks, their leaves, and it's no longer in the atmosphere. So
exactly.
That's the process. Okay. Well, good. So you also mentioned bioenergy. So how do trees and forestry play into the bioenergy?
Once again, it's another. It's something I got involved with about 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, but it's the idea of that landowners have this resource, and bioenergy is a potential market for landowners. And my work over time has been evaluate the potential for it in Mississippi and the Southeast. And it's been at the level of assessing what is available, what's out there, who's willing to actually provide it to potential mills, and what's the cost of actually getting it to those mills. And that's the kind of work that I've been involved with for a long time.
Well, I can see that's really valuable to be able to assess those cost benefits for the landowners.
Yes, and it's been a interesting thing because we've done a lot of work with landowners trying to evaluate their willingness to provide this resource, and there's been lots of assumptions, especially from other sectors of the economy, that landowners will all respond in one way, but that's not really the case. They own land for lots of different reasons, and just because there's a higher price, they won't always react in that manner.
Sure. Well, I look forward to hearing a little bit more about your research when we have your graduate student join us after the break. But thank you for taking the time. And we'll be right back to learn a little bit more about the Department of Forestry after this break.
Want a career as big as the outdoors? Want to have an impact on the environment? The College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University delivers hands-on training, ensuring clean air and water, wildlife habitats, and a sustainable environment. Creating new wood products and retooling old ones for today and tomorrow. Find a career in whatever path you choose. Majors in forestry, natural resource and environmental conservation, sustainable bioproducts, wildlife, fisheries, and aquaculture. Want a career as big as the outdoors? Choose the College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University.
Discovery. It tells our history and determines our future. At Mississippi State University, we're digging deep, unlocking an understanding of our past, validating it. Middle East exploration by faculty and students is uncovering evidence that unravels ancient mysteries. Scholars have long thought of the biblical kings David and Solomon as mythological figures. Our research offers evidence that supports their existence, boosting MSU into an international league of experts on archaeology. Now we're changing the way people think about the past, opening up new possibilities of understanding for future generations. Digging deeper, learning more.
Hello and welcome back to Renew, the show about the College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University. Joining me now is graduate student Arun Regmi. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about your path to Mississippi State.
I'm from Nepal, and I graduated there from the Nepal Tribhuvan University. And once I completed my undergraduate degree, then I get into the government service. And I worked there for 1.5 years. And during that time, I started searching for the graduate opportunity in the United States. And then, meanwhile, I contacted with the Dr. Grabner, and he encouraged me to apply in the Department of Forestry. And then I applied and I got accepted, and now I'm here.
Well, good, excellent. So what is your research project that you're working on?
Yeah, we are assessing the trade-off of managing the southern pine, yellow pine, for the growing higher quality saw timber past the optimal rotation age. And then, like, the southern United States is recognized as the wood basket, and it supplies more wood than any other region in the world. So, and we are planting our southern pine and harvesting southern pine in early age, like it used to be, like in the between 30 to 35 years. So the trees harvested in early age, it gives the more immature wood and the juvenile wood, which is not good in quality.
Right.
And if you let them grow for longer age, and it will give you more mature and the quality over. So, and also it will give you the variety of ecosystem services. Like it will gives you the wildlife habitat, carbon sequestration, and then the aesthetic beauty as well. And so there is other benefit as well if you grow your pine for the higher quality saw timber. So we are assessing how much the landowner will need to grow their pine timber for the higher quality saw timber, because if they delay their final harvest past the optimal rotation age, from there they get the highest economic return, and they need some money to manage their forest.
Sure.
Delaying the harvest, so
Right.
they need to be compensated in terms of money. So we are calculating how much they need to delay their plantation or their tree growing. So, and we are also assessing the buyer is the primary forest product industries such as sawmills who buy the saw timber from
Right.
the landowner forest. So whether they are interested in giving the price premium or not, we
Right.
are also assessing that. So
Right.
these are the main things that we are assessing in our
Sure.
research.
Okay, so you're still working in this idea of economics,
Yeah.
and landowners face decisions, trade-offs,
Yeah.
and whether do I harvest my trees now,
Oh,
or do I delay that later?
Right.
There's benefits and cost to doing both of that.
right.
And so what we heard from Dr. Grebner was to be able to understand those costs and benefits and communicate that to the landowner so they can make an informed decision is really important
Right.
for our management of our natural resources and just from the economic standpoint. So where do you see yourself going then? You get this is a master's degree that you're working on, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you see yourself then moving back into another government position like you had been in before, or going on to an advanced degree, or where do you see yourself?
Yeah, once I complete this master, and the next step will be to study the PhD program if I got, and then once I complete all the study, then I will get to the academia, because I'm interested in continue my research, and probably I'll go back to Nepal, and I'll use all the knowledge that I will get from here in my forest resources in my country.
Right. Well, that's great. It's good that you'll be able to use that.
Yeah.
It's kind of the reverse that we saw with Dr. Grebner, so it's good to see that being returned. I enjoyed your story, and I thank you for coming by. And I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your schedules to come and visit with me and our guest, Dr. Don Grebner, and Mr. Arun Grebner from the Department of Forestry. I hope that you'll join us again in the future. Until then, enjoy the beautiful resources we have here in the state of Mississippi.